What's going on YouTube? It's Tej back again with another video, and today we're going to be going over Todd McShay's latest mock draft. I had a different video planned for today. You're going to see that later this week, and I'm going to push my mock draft off until next weekend, so I apologize. You're going to have to wait a little bit, but I figure this is a little different, but also up the same alley. So if you enjoyed today's video, please hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, like football and draft coverage content, please consider hitting that subscribe button and comment down below what you think of Todd McShay's mock draft here. Let me slide up if you haven't seen it. Pick number 3 is going to be a contentious one in my books. But we start things off with Trevor Lawrence. That makes sense. Don't need to talk about that too long. Zach Wilson of the Jets. It feels like a growing consensus. He's going to be the number 2 pick. And all right, here we go. This is the pick that we have to talk about, and I almost thought about doing my mock this week to talk about, the shifting movements of, the Niners up to 3, the Dolphins now are at 6, and the Eagles are at 12, but again, you're going to have to wait a week to see how I think that breaks down. I've been doing some mock drafts, and I think I have a really good mock in mind, but I have Trey Lance going here. There's a lot of buzz going around Mac Jones, his NFL comps being, players like Kirk Cousins or Matt Ryan. And I get that, but if you're going to trade all the way up to 3, you're going for upside. If you wanted Mac Jones, you would trade up, sneak peek to what else comes. You trade up to this spot here at 7, where the Lions normally are. You don't give up the haul to move all the way up to 3. There's a huge value difference between 3 and 7. Look up the, trade value sheet. It's everywhere. All you got to do is Google and look for it. I think if you're going here, you're going upside. I wouldn't hate if it's Justin Fields. I just think Trey Lance is a phenomenal fit within that offense. Kyle Shanahan will know how to get him outside the pocket. He has a great arsenal of weapons around him. I don't think there's a better spot you could put Trey Lance in. Also, the 49ers are saying they don't want to get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo. That's probably smoke, probably just trying to boost his trade value. So maybe Fields is the guy here, but if they're serious about keeping Garoppolo around, I think that's all the more reason to take Trey Lance here. Have him sit for a year, learn from Garoppolo, get adjusted to the NFL speed, and then he takes over and he could be a top 5 quarterback in a handful of years. I won't knock the Mac Jones selection because I see it and I like teams being aggressive. This is the 49ers being aggressive and saying, we're going to get our guy. No matter what, we're not going to let the draft get crazy on us. We're getting our guy at 3. And if Mac Jones is their guy, I can respect that. And in a lot of ways, he's got the highest floor. He certainly has the highest floor between him, Fields, and Lance. And he might be the most day one ready. So in a lot of ways, I can't knock it too much. And if you take Mac Jones, I think you definitely move on from Jimmy G, because I think Mac Jones can be a starter week 1. And then, then things get interesting with the Patriots, or they get in the mix with Jimmy Garoppolo. There's a lot of fun to talk about there. But to me, this is Lance. But also, if the 49ers feel like Mac Jones is their guy, I trust Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch's expertise. They haven't made a lot of bad decisions, So if they feel like Mac Jones is worthy of being number 3, I have to give it off to him until it goes wrong, right? Like, if Lance, turns out to be the star that he could be and Mac Jones is like another Jimmy G, we'll look back at this in disappointing fashion. But nonetheless, I think this should be Lance. Fields is my secondary choice. I don't know. I still have Mac Jones as QB5, but there is a ton of hype going around him. So buzz plays a big factor in who makes those late rises before the draft. Kyle Pitts here at 4. I think Atlanta would be foolish not to go QB. Like, even if Mac Jones, especially if Mac Jones is gone, I think Trey Lance is a perfect fit if he's on the board. And let's say this is Fields here at 3. Pull the trigger on Lance. If Arthur Smith does his job right, this team is too talented to be picking 4th overall again, right? They restructure Matt Ryan's deal, but that's largely because they have to get under the cap this year. That they can restructure it again next offseason, or if Matt Ryan plays well this year, they can trade him, and whoever gets Matt Ryan, just like the Rams did with Matt Stafford, they'll restructure the deal then. I'm not really worried about that dead cap number being so big next year. That does not tie him down to Atlanta past this upcoming season. So, to me, this has got to be Trey Lance. Get your guy of the future, and I think he'd be great in Arthur Smith's system. We see how Smith used Tannehill and his mobility. Lance is that, and then some. Lance also has a stronger arm than Tannehill, just being able to throw the ball down the field. Got to work on the consistency with the accuracy, and obviously just adjusting to game speed. But that's where, if Lance sits behind Ryan for a year, I love that combo. I love that mentorship the two could have. So Kyle Pitts is a dynamic playmaker. Hayden Hurst is only under contract for 1 more year. You could use Pitts on the outside, in the slot, as a tight end. You could go 2 tight end formations. You can do a lot of different things. I get it. But this is QB or trade back. The only way you get the max value of the number 4 overall pick is QB in this draft or trade down. Kyle Pitts is a good player, but I don't know if that should be what Atlanta's thinking there at 4. Now, if they trade back with a team like Carolina, who Todd McShay predicts moving up, and you get to 7 and Kyle Pitts is there, pull the trigger. If you think he's BPA, then pull the trigger there, but not at 4. On to the Cincinnati Bengals at number 5. This is actually where our sneak peek. I have Kyle Pitts going. I think Kyle Pitts is going to end up being the first pass catcher off the board, just like McShay does, and just like Mel Kiper in his last mock draft. He had Kyle Pitts as the first receiver off the board. So I actually think PFF's most recent mock also had Kyle Pitts going here. So I'm not going to knock Chase. He's wide receiver 1. He was awesome during his pro day. He was awesome in 2019. He's a stud. I mean, he is unbelievable. He has the ceiling to be a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. And he's still so young. So you put him in Cincinnati. He has that chemistry with Joe Burrow. Those two, broke records in 2019. I like that. I just think Pitts is a little bit more of what they need. They don't have a tight end option, so you can play Pitts in that role and open up the offense for Zach Taylor in a lot of different ways. He can also be a slot guy. You already have Tyler Boyd, but in the NFL it's not uncommon to have 4 wide receivers and you have 2 slot guys in that set. And then you also could just split them out wide. And I think Kyle Pitts would give this team a red zone threat they just don't have. I think T. Higgins is good in the red zone, but he's not elite. I think Kyle Pitts could be the best red zone weapon in the NFL in a couple of years. I really do. So I'm not going to knock the Chase pick. It makes a ton of sense. He has chemistry with Burrow. I just like Kyle Pitts here a little bit more. But in this case, Pitts is off the board. So, Chase would then make a lot of sense. That could also be, obviously, offensive line. But if you're going to go pass catcher, I think it's Pitts. Nonetheless, moving on to the Dolphins at 6, Pitts and Chase off the board. He has them taking Devonta Smith. I really think Jalen Waddle would be a really interesting fit for this team. Will Fuller's only on a 1-year deal, so if you're thinking, well, they already have a downfield burner, it's a 1-year thing, and I don't think Will Fuller's going to be coming back long term. I mean, I think he's going to get big money elsewhere next offseason. But Devonta Smith gives you a ton of flexibility, inside, outside guy. He's a separator, really good hands, really smooth to watch on tape, and he's pretty good after the catch. Not quite Waddle, but he makes things happen with the ball in his hand. But he makes things happen with the ball in his hands and with open space. So I wouldn't knock this pick, and this is kind of what I'm thinking the Dolphins might do. But a sneaky option here is Rashawn Slater. Slater has more career snaps at right tackle than anywhere else during his days at Northwestern. And blindside protector for Miami would be that right tackle spot. So keep an eye on Rashawn Slater. I could see that being one of those whoa, I can't believe that happened on draft day kind of moments. McShay predicts a trade up for the Panthers, moving up to 7, basically moving up 1 spot to get Trey Lance. I could see the Lions potentially going QB of the future. Maybe they like Lance, sit behind Goff for a year, maybe even 2, play out the rest of his contract. But, in this case, I like the move. It's, 1 spot, so the value is pretty close. You wouldn't have to give up something egregious. Plus, it's just an extra pick in the way of the Lions, so I think it works out for both teams. QB of the future with Carolina. I hear they like Mac Jones a lot. Matt Rule coached him at the Senior Bowl, but I think Trey Lance would be just awesome in that offense, and have him work with at least 1 season of Joe Brady in that offense. Joe Brady probably is going to get a head coaching job next, offseason, next head coaching carousel. I think Joe Brady gets a head coaching gig. But nonetheless, Lance with Brady for 1 year. He learns under Bridgewater, who's a similar but not as athletic and just overall not as high of a ceiling type of player. I like that. I think that fits really well. Lions move back a spot. They get an extra asset. Moving on. I don't think McShay put it in here. Doesn't really matter. And then take Jalen Waddle. I mean, best wide receiver left on the board. Fantastic fit. Definitely a need. Get a weapon for Goff. Love it. Don't need to talk about it too much. So yeah, love that pick for Detroit. Moving on to the Denver Broncos at number 9, Patrick Surtain. This is an interesting one. I feel like this is a Micah Parsons spot. Really versatile linebacker, fits that Vic Fangio defense. He can do whatever Vic Fangio wants him to do. And they just spent so much money on the cornerback spot. I get Kyle Fuller's only on a 1-year deal, but then you also overpaid for Ronald Darby. You got to feel like they want to make that work. I feel like in a year, maybe 2 years' time, they're going to regret that signing. but by then the cap will go up, so maybe we won't look at it so negatively compared to where we're at now. But Surtain's a shutdown corner. You also have Michael Ojemudia in this cornerback room for Denver. So, 4 cornerbacks deep, plus Bryce Callahan to make it 5. I mean, I don't know. It feels like they're crowding up the room there. I feel like this should be Micah Parsons. J.C. Horn to the Cowboys. Spoiler, I might have this happening while Surtain's on the board. J.C. Horn's getting hot at the right time, folks. Just like C.J. Henderson last year, he is getting hot at the right time. Henderson last year was still CB2 behind Okudah, and I still think Surtain might be who I have Dallas take here at 10. He had a good pro day, but J.C. Horn does a ton of things right. Little grabby, that's the only knock people have on him. You've heard me say it before. You've heard other people say it before, but that can be coached up. And some weeks you're going to get away with it in the NFL. Officiating crews see everything differently. We're humans. We're subjective. So I think J.C. Horn's a future CB1. Great athletic upside. Love it a ton. And, of course, the big faller out of this is Caleb Farley, as he mentions here. The second back surgery. Not good. Another trade here for McShay. He has New England moving up to 11. And keep in mind, Penei Sewell's still on the board, as is Rashawn Slater. 2 guys I have going in the top 10. I mean, that's also kind of my knock here on this mock. I mean, everyone's opinion is valid. I'm, in the mock, in the draft itself is crazy. So I'm not saying nothing can happen, but I do not see a lot of different realms where Penei Sewell makes it out of the top 11, make it top 12. You can see Micah Parsons is going to go there at 12, but trade up for the Patriots, get Justin Fields, and he becomes QB5 when it's all said and done. Man, I feel like that could be a perfect marriage for, Bill Belichick, a guy who needs to get smarter. His knock is, he sits on one read. He's a little slow when it goes through his progressions. Bill Belichick's a great coach. Also, Josh McDaniels is a really creative offensive coordinator. I feel like they would be the right coaches to build him up and have an ability to showcase he is more than just a one-read guy. Fields has all the athletic ability you want in a QB, a franchise guy. He's got the mobility. He's got the arm strength. He's got really good downfield accuracy. I mean, great touch as well. I mean, I can't say enough about Fields. It's remarkable he's QB5. That just speaks. This is a once-in-a-generation type of class. This is, in a lot of ways, equivalent to the likes of the 1983 draft. I mean, there are few and far between that have 5 top, QBs that in any other year would be QB1, maybe QB2, and they all go in top 11 here. That's pretty remarkable. Think about that. You're kind of witnessing history. So I like this move for New England. Get the QB of the future. You sign Cam Newton, but you basically pay him just to be a backup and a mentor to Justin Fields, whose play styles are pretty similar. Parsons here at 12. No wide receivers on the board, plus the top 2 corners are gone. This absolutely makes sense. I like that trade for the Eagles. I almost made a winners and losers of that trade, but I liked the trade for all 3 teams. I really did. Maybe the Dolphins didn't get or gave up too much moving from 12 to 6, but if you think about it as one trade all happening at once, they got great value overall. So, and I like the deal for the Eagles. Get a future first, and then you get a early first round type of guy. If Micah Parsons falls you at 12 and all the receivers are gone and all the corners are gone, it's still a great pick. Or if Parsons is gone and Horn's available and all the wide receivers are gone, Horn's a great fit. If Horn, Parsons, Surtain are all gone, but there's a wide receiver, Kyle Pitts, whatever, they're in a position to get a playmaker. So they really are in a spot to get a need filled no matter what. So Micah Parsons is the case here with all the wideouts and corners gone. Love that pick if that were to happen for the Eagles. And then finally, Penei Sewell stopped sliding. I have heard that he is losing stock a little bit, but it's marginal. He's not fallen past this point in the draft. He's going top 10. I don't see him falling to 13, but if this did happen, this would be a slam dunk pick. Future left tackle for Justin Herbert. Both played together at Oregon. I mean, this would be a match made in heaven. But this feels like one McShay was like, this would be interesting to talk about. Let me make sure it happens, as opposed to this organically came to fruition. So, I don't know. Moving on to the Vikings at 14, this would be another great pick. I don't think Slater gets past the Giants at 11. I'm not counting for trades, but if the Giants hold on the 11th pick, I don't see Slater getting past them at 11. But, hey, guard tackle flexibility. I think he's probably day one left tackle for Minnesota if this were to happen. So after the trade down, Todd McShay has the Giants taking Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I think I'd go Elijah Vera Tucker here, have him be that Kevin Zeitler replacement, but they need linebacker. Joke is a stud, does a lot in coverage. He's also good in the run game, sideline to sideline guy. Can't sing his praises enough. So if this is what the Giants wanted to do at 15, I wouldn't knock it. I just think I'd go Vera Tucker. And then the final trade he has projected, Dolphins move up from 18 to 16 and grab Elijah Vera Tucker, and then he's their right guard of the future. I guess then you would keep Robert Hunt at right tackle. Tucker does have tackle flexibility, but Todd is, saying he's a better fit at guard in the NFL, blah, blah, blah. So it sounds like Todd McShay would see this as the right guard of the future, keeping Hunt at right tackle. I think Tucker could easily be the blindside protector on the right side, but yeah, like that move for Miami. Move up a couple spots, get their guy. Like them being aggressive. Raiders at 17, Trevon Moehrig. I mean, I have him fall into the Jags at 25, and instead Tevin Jenkins going here to the Raiders. But if they want to get the best safety available, I'm not knocking it. He could be. Moehrig is probably the best strong and free safety in the class, which is crazy. He can literally do it all. So I'm not going to knock this pick whatsoever. Plus, you're moving in that Gus Bradley cover 3 defense. Moehrig could be that center fielder, and dude, he'll make plays. But I have him going Jenkins here, and then you'll see in my mock, I have him taking safety in round 2, and it's a guy who we'll talk about at the very end of this, but he should be getting first-round consideration like he was at the beginning of the year. Caleb Farley, his fall drops. Cardinals take him at 18. I could see the Cardinals, if Horn and Surtain are both gone by 16, I really could see Farley still going at 16 to the Cardinals. You're betting on the athletic upside. It's a huge position of need, so for a lot of different reasons, it makes plenty of sense. You just really worry about his availability. Do those injuries mount up? 2 back surgeries for a corner? That's scary. Moving on to the Washington football team, they got an absolute steal here. Christian Darrisaw. They get their left tackle, bookend guy, protector for whoever is under center. And actually, once we get to round 2 of Todd's mock, it's really interesting. So that's a great pick. That'd be A+ value right there. Kadarius Toney to the Browns. This feels like a tackle spot to me, but I love Kadarius Toney. So if he's going to be your slot guy with Allen Robinson and Darnell Mooney on the outside, I'm not knocking it. And then it's playmakers. And a guy like Andy Dalton, he struggled last year, had a couple of big games statistically for the Cowboys, and he had a ton of weapons around him. So if you're hoping to have him put up big numbers, you're going to need all the weapons you can get. Colts at 21. This is the same pick. I have them taking. Kwity Paye is a freak. I really like the idea of the Vikings taking him at 14, but I think offensive line has become too big of a need with the loss of Riley Reif. So Kwity Paye makes a ton of sense here at 21. It's a team that needs edge rusher. They could use a wide receiver and definitely need a left tackle too, but you can't pass on the upside of Kwity Paye. He's a perfect 4-3 fit too, so love that move for a lot of different reasons. Greg Newsome going 22 to the Titans. They could definitely use a corner. Don't hate this pick. I actually have Rashad Bateman going here in my mock, and we'll talk about Bateman. McShay has him fallen way too far for my liking. And then speaking of Newsome, and then moving on to the 23rd pick, this is where I see Newsome going. But Travis Etienne, man, I mean, I could see it. Robert Saleh gets his, bell cow running back, but at the same time, he comes from that San Francisco scheme. They just signed Tevin Coleman. They have P. Ryan still there. I don't know. They might just run it through a committee. So I don't know if they go first round running back. And I don't know. He's got the Steelers going Najee Harris here at 24. I don't know if either one of those guys end up going round 1. If they do, Najee Harris to the Bills at 30. But even that, I'm not really crazy about that pick. So I think both these guys fall to the second round, barring like a trade back up into the first round from some team. But nonetheless, if the Jets took ETN, they saw him as best player available. I'm not hating on it. And then you get to the Steelers, and Tevin Jenkins is on the board. That's got to be the pick here. Like, I love Najee Harris, and you might not have Javonte Williams available to you in the second round. Spoiler, Todd McShay does not think he will get to the Steelers in the second round, despite me hoping that happens. But tackle's a huge hole. And Benny Snell and Anthony McFarland, that backfield tandem could be good enough, right? Like, if you improve the offensive line, I think their numbers obviously go up, right? Like, Marquise Pouncey, God bless him, one of the best Steelers over the last decade. He was really bad last year. Alejandro Villanueva, the Steelers didn't bring him back for a reason. Like, he was really bad. He had some games where he was okay, but he had plenty of bad games. So that offensive line needs to get better. So this feels like a Tevin Jenkins spot. But if they wanted to get, in my opinion, RB1, I would love seeing Najee Harris in a Steelers uniform. It'd be the bus 2.0 for me. And then maybe you just, band-aid the offensive line, hope he's good enough to improve that play. But normally it's the other way around. Offensive line produces better running back play as opposed to good running backs improving offensive line play. Jenkins doesn't have to wait long, though. Jags take him 25, tackle the future. Still have Cam Robinson on the franchise tag and Jawan Taylor at right tackle. But I don't know if they bring back Cam Robinson long term, so Jenkins could be his replacement. Maybe you move Taylor over to left tackle, Jenkins your right tackle. Jenkins is a stud in the run game, real mean run blocking mauler, but also plenty of upside when it comes to his pass blocking. On to Cleveland at 26, Gregory Rousseau. Hey, fits that 4-3, and a lot of his pass rush wins come from the interior, so maybe on 3rd and long situations, you bring Tack McKinley on, and he's that rush end, and then you move Rousseau inside to rush interior linemen. I really like that. I see this as Jalen Phillips, but Todd and I basically just have the same 2 players going to the same 2 teams, just one going to the other and the other going to the opposite team. So Rousseau, I won't knock this pick. High upside guy. He could be somebody, if he hits his stride, we look back at and say, how did he fall to 26? Kind of an underwhelming pro day. I mean, obviously the frame is there. He's huge, 6'6", like 260 something, I think is what he checked in at off the top of my head. But when it comes to like the athletic measurables, 43 cone, nothing too crazy. But nonetheless, the tape speaks for itself. 15.5 sacks in 2019. Again, a lot of it comes on the interior. And if he doesn't win initially, he won't win at all. But, the Browns have maybe the best pass rusher in football, Myles Garrett, to teach him. So I love that fit for Rousseau. Ravens at 2017, Terrence Marshall. And keep in mind, Rashad Bateman is still on the board. And that's the folly. Like, the Ravens certainly had interest in Allen Robinson, just didn't want to spend money. And then they had interest in Kenny Golladay, were trying to find the money. Then they wanted Juju Smith-Schuster. And I think Rashad Bateman is definitely closer to an Allen Robinson type. And he is more in line with Juju Smith-Schuster, maybe even Kenny Golladay, than someone like Terrence Marshall. So between the two, I think this is a Bateman spot more than a Marshall. But hey, Terrence Marshall's really smooth, really fluid to watch. He's got that 6'3" frame. And the Ravens definitely need a wide receiver. But since they signed Sammy Watkins, outside of Bateman going, which in my mock, he's already off the board. So I think this is edge Baltimore. And then they go slot wide receiver in round 2. Keep in mind, they lost Willie Snead, who was their slot guy last year. So they also have Devin Duvernay still around. So maybe he's their slot guy, playmaker of sorts. But I think if it's Marshall or Bateman, I think they go Bateman. On to the Saints at 28. And again, Bateman's available, but I don't hate this one as much as I maybe disagree with this Terrence Marshall one. Actually, I guess Terrence Marshall's 6'4". That's interesting. But Elijah Moore gives this team a slot weapon that they just don't have right now. Couple that with dynamic playmaker. Get him the ball in open space. Try to cut down on like the risky throws Jameis Winston might make. Just have him make a simple throw to Elijah Moore and let Moore do the rest. I think Moore is a first-round caliber guy. But just due to how many good wide receivers are available, he easily could fall into round 2. Packers at 29. They need cornerback. Don't go there. Need wide receiver. Don't go there. But they do also need linebacker. So, this is your Christian Kirksey replacement, as McShay points out. Jamin Davis is a stud. He's getting a lot of hype at the right time. And I could definitely see him sneaking his way into the late first round. So, it's not the need I would address here if I was Green Bay, but it's a need nonetheless. Moving on to the Bills at 30. I have Rousseau going here, and then Jalen Phillips going to the Browns. Basically, McShay sees the other way around. He's a great 4-3 fit, and if he stays healthy, he's probably a better day one player than someone like Gregory Rousseau or maybe even Kwity Paye for that matter. Jalen Phillips coming off a great year at Miami. Bills need pass rush. This video is starting to get a little long, so I'll speed it up here. Chiefs would get an absolute steal here. I just cannot see Azeez Ojulari falling to 31, but man, he would be an awesome fit in that defense. That would be an absolute bargain. They could go tackle. Jalen Mayfield's still available. Also like Liam Eichenberg a lot. But I think they have enough fixes. They just signed Austin Blythe to be the center. So, I don't know, maybe Laurent Duvernay-Tardif is moving out to tackle. Maybe Remmers is. I don't love that. Maybe Kyle Long is playing right tackle. I don't know. Lucas Niang at left tackle. I don't know. A lot of weird fits across the offensive line, but they have bodies. And Azeez Ojulari is too good to pass up there. And then Zaven Collins to the Buccaneers. He could be a stand-up inside linebacker for that defense. Maybe the guy who fills the void of, Levante David once his 2-year contract's up in 2 years. But he's also an edge rusher and can be a situational pass rusher and help lighten the load for Jason Pierre-Paul, who is getting old. And then maybe if he has enough success, he's just like the actual replacement to JPP. I can see that happening. Keep in mind there's Christian Barmore still available too, and I think he's a first-round guy, and I think that's who the Jags would take here, top of round 2. Tutu Atwell, really dynamic playmaker, good with the ball in his hands, really electric in space, no doubt about it. Another one of those guys. There's a lot of those guys in this draft. But man, they could use IDL help. They lost Tyson Alualu. Barmore's more of a pass rushing D tackle than a nose tackle. But nonetheless, I think there's enough wide receivers in that room. Keep in mind, you have D.D. Westbrook. You just signed Marvin Jones. You have DJ Chark. You have Laviska Shenault. I just don't see the need to bring in Tutu Atwell in this spot. But he's a dynamic playmaker, and you want to get weapons for Trevor Lawrence, I dig it. I just think Barmore is a better pick there. And also, if you're going to go wide receiver, go Bateman. He's better than Atwell. Jets take Liam Eichenberg at 34. I think Eichenberg could be a really good right tackle. He's a better player in the run game than he is pass blocking. I still think he can be a bookend left tackle, and he could be somebody like if he fell to the Colts, he could be a day one starter at that spot, especially considering the Colts want to be run first with Jonathan Taylor. But nonetheless, this definitely makes sense for the Jets. I dig it a lot. Trying to repair that offensive line. They have continued to miss on every spot but Mekhi Becton at left tackle. On to pick number 35, the Atlanta Falcons take Javonte Williams. I love that pick. I have ETN falling to this point, but he might not be there in round 2. And I think ETN to Mike Davis is really good, lightning the thunder. And, Javonte Williams, a big power back, bruiser, awesome contact balance. That's what everybody's raving about. And him and Mike Davis make a really formidable backfield, no doubt about it. Ronnie Perkins, I think, is a bit better in a 4-3 defense, but best edge left available, and it's a position of need for Miami, so I can't knock that. Bateman finally stops falling, and then the Eagles get what would be maybe the best value of the draft, them or maybe Mayfield here at 38. Those are both first-round guys to me. I don't see this happening, but if it did, the Eagles would get great value, and the Bengals would be also with Jalen Mayfield. Though I think at this point, maybe you play him at guard, who I think he'd be an awesome guard. But Jonah Williams at left tackle, you have Riley Reif at right tackle. Mayfield may take over at the right side, but at least in year 1, maybe he'd be a guard. Asante Samuel Jr., it's a big position of need for Carolina. Maybe this is Aaron Robinson. You get a nickel option to play inside while you have Rashawn Melvin and Deontay Jackson on the outside like McShay mentions. But Asante Samuel Jr. I love. I think he's phenomenal. I think the upside's there. So I'm not going to knock that pick. Joe Tryon's a really tough player to mock because his athletic upside might not be there, but man, the production is, and he's a high motor guy. So Denver gets another rotational D end. I can like it. 3-4 outside linebacker too. He has him as a D end, but 3-4. Maybe he's playing outside linebacker. Maybe he's the replacement of Von Miller. I don't know. Interesting. They also do have Malik Reed and Bradley Chubb, as McShay mentioned. So I don't know. No QB taken here from Denver. Maybe this is Davis Mills. He's climbing up boards, or maybe it's one of the QBs that McShay does have taken in the second round. Nick Bolton of the Lions. They need linebacker. Jamie Collins is old, just like McShay points out. That's a good pick. Carlos Basham Jr. Extra defensive line help for the Giants. I don't mind that. I think Basham's more of a 4-3 end, but maybe he's a 3-4 outside linebacker in the making. Keep in mind, Sam Cosby's also available, so I'm also kind of perplexed by how some of these players are falling into the second round. A player like Mayfield and Bateman, and spoiler alert, there's Christian Barmore. He's not falling to 44. And then also Cosby's available. I think he's, top 30 type of guy in the class when it comes to when he's taken. But nonetheless, we'll talk about it later. 49ers at 43. Kelvin Joseph, this would be a slam dunk pick, right? Like if you went, this could also be IOL. I could definitely see that. But I think they might have some patched up answers. Alex Mack on a 1-year deal. So I kind of like corner here in round 2. QB, corner, that defense, that roster overall might be one of the best in the NFL. Barmore, he's not available here at 44. I have Levi Onwuzurike going here to the Cowboys, but if Barmore somehow fell, that would be a match made in heaven. That's the exact position and exact skill set the Cowboys are looking for. Same pick I have in my mock. Jags going Pat Freiermuth. I dig it a lot. They definitely need a tight end, and this is like they took Tutu Atwell at the beginning in this mock for Todd McShay. This is the position that you could get help at. You already have so many wide receivers. Go get a tight end. So moving on to the Patriots at 46, Elijah Molden, this nickel corner to safety. You already kind of have a guy like that in Jalen Mills, but if you played Molden in the slot with Gilmore, if you held on to him, J.C. Jackson, if you hold on to him, wow, that DB group is crazy. Keep in mind they took Justin Fields at 11. That's a scary good roster as well. And I guess then that means you're playing Mills at safety. Chargers at 47. Creed Humphrey, does he have guard flexibility? I've only seen him play center, so let me know in the comments below if you've seen him or know about him playing guard, but it feels like an easy enough transition, helps patch up that offensive line. They went Penei Sewell in round 1, then you get Humphrey, help on the interior. Next thing you know, that offensive line is looking really solid for Herbert. Cosme's a round 1 guy, but this would just be fantastic value for the Raiders. And basically, it's the same thing I have in my mock, just reversed. I have them going Tevin Jenkins in round 1, then Javon Holland, who we're going to talk about in a little bit, going in round 2. I think Holland's a round 1 type of safety, but nonetheless, McShay just sees it the other way around. Marig in round 1, then what won't happen, but a steal of a tackle in round 2. Rondale Moore to the Cardinals. They need a playmaker over the middle of the field. That's something they just don't have. Christian Kirk's a deep threat. AJ Green is like a prototypical X, but he's on the decline. DeAndre Hopkins can do anything you need him to do, but Moore's a little small, listed at 5'7" during his pro day, but man, what he can do with the ball in his hands, he is just electric. And he also, there's been talk about potentially using him as like a running back of sorts, kind of that Laviska Shenault type of player where he does a lot of different things. Cordero Patterson too, but just way smaller than those two guys. And I like it. It opens up what Cliff Kingsbury might be able to do, and I'd be interested to see how Kingsbury would use more in his offense. Jabril Cox to the Dolphins. They did make that trade for McKinney from Houston. But yeah, they could definitely use a rangy inside linebacker. Him and Jerome Baker, dude, they would cover so much ground. And that 3-4, they'd both be on the field. That would be gnarly. And then now we get some QBs. All right, this is where the second round QBs are kind of more fun to talk about than the first round QBs because we all know the first round guys are good. These second round guys are fun. Kellen Mond could be the next passion project for the Washington football team. And man, have him sit behind Ryan Fitzpatrick for a year. I guess he could learn from Taylor Heineke too, but the upside's there, man. Like, if Mond can become a consistent passer, he's already got experience in a pro-style offense. There's a lot to like there. There is a ton to like there. I don't know if I have him as a first-round guy like Chris Sims, but man, I like Mond a lot. I think that's a really sexy fit. Like, he doesn't have to rush to be a starter. Give him time, let him progress, get used to the NFL and its speed. I like it a lot. Kyle Trask, I feel like Davis Mills might have actually surpassed Kyle Trask in the eyes of NFL teams, but that's just how I see it. Let me know what you think. But Kyle Trask, man, he has that build that the Bears like in a QB. He is like Foles. He's a little bigger than Dalton. And maybe he eventually takes over for Dalton this year if he's struggling. But he also could be somebody you sit for a year and then takes over next year. But definitely a position of need. And I think you're a Bears fan. I think you could be talked into liking Trask at 52. Look, he did a lot of things right during last college football season. He went from a guy who was nowhere near this conversation. Played so well midway through the year where we're talking about, is he a first-round guy? There was a point where people had him over Mac Jones. Think about that. This mock draft had Mac Jones going 3. And there was a point in the year where people were considering Trask ahead of Jones. Wild. I don't think Trask is a second-round project. I think there is some upside there. He can't do a whole lot on his own after the play if it's unscripted and he doesn't have a whole lot of mobility, but Peyton Manning was fine. Tom Brady's been fine. There's places where he could go and be okay. And that's why I was kind of thinking about having the Bucs take him in my mock at the end of round 2, because obviously similar enough skill set to Tom Brady. Andre Cisco. This feels a little early, but the Titans could definitely use him. They took Newsome in round 1. Cisco is a really tough player to grade because his upside might put him at safety 1 in this class. Like, he really would. He might be an instant, like, if he only had the good, which sounds like duh, but his upside is, his like best play is probably the best in the class, but then he just makes a bunch of mistakes. Just things you can't have, and guys like, and that's why I don't know if Tennessee's a good fit, because Mike Vrabel might look at all those mistakes on tape, poor tackling, bad angles, blown coverages, like all those types of things, and be like, nah, I'm not wasting my time on it. I can't coach that much on one guy when I got 53 to take care of. So I don't know. Cisco, probably more of a 3-4, maybe 5. I could see him falling past that. I don't know. Round 2 feels kind of early, but the upside is undeniable. If he were to be coached up, he'll be a stud. On to the Colts at 54. They go cornerback. Definitely a big group of need. I'm going to go ahead and fly through the rest of these picks so we can wrap this video up. Don't want to keep you around too long. Landon Dickerson. If the Steelers take him, I think it's going to end up being with their first-round pick. I think he's off the board early round 2. But I'd love to see him fall to the Steelers at 55. And keep in mind, they took Najee Harris. So maybe if they go Najee, then Landon Dickerson at center, maybe that is a good plan of attack. They also still need a tackle. Unless they're going to play Chuck Akuma at left tackle, Banner at right, maybe. I don't know. Quinn Miners, huge riser from the Senior Bowl. My God. I mean, probably 7th round guy, maybe undrafted more than likely. Played his way all the way up in the 2nd round. D3 guy. Love what I saw from him in the Senior Bowl. Definitely feels a position of need for the Seahawks. Chaz Surratt, inside linebacker. Kind of an interesting one for the Rams. I'm not sure I'm 100% crazy about it. But I do like Surratt as a player, good sideline-to-sideline range. I just feel like it's got to be offensive line. You lost Austin Blythe. You need a center. Maybe it's a little early to take... sorry, just had to go look it up. But maybe this is a Josh Myers spot. Maybe it's a little early. He was a center at Ohio State. Maybe he's a round 3 guy. Maybe the Rams are going to wait. But I don't know. Chaz Surratt, if they see him as BPA, I can't hate it. Jason Oweh, he's going round 1, whether you guys like it or not. His upside is undeniable. Like, if the Bucs aren't going Barmore at 32, then they're taking Oweh to be the potential edge rusher of the future. This would be a steal for the Ravens, but it's just not going to happen. Tyson Campbell's a tough player to mock. I have some ways of thinking that I think he could go to the Packers at 30. Or the Bills at 30, the Packers at 29. Like, he could be a late first-round guy. He could sneak in there. But this feels like a good spot, and he might be a good boundary corner if Greedy Williams can't stay on the field. So definitely some upside there, and I like that pick for the Browns. Alex Leatherwood, tackle guard. Saints don't have an immediate need, but it's a guy eventually who could take over. And McShay points out Ryan Ramczyk. Maybe they don't re-sign him. I think they will. Teron Armstead's actually an interesting guy. He is somebody who might end up getting traded eventually. On to the Bills at pick number 61, Levi Onwuzurike. I think they go nose tackle. Onwuzurike is more of a pass rusher, I think, than a run stopper, at least from what I see. But him and Ed Oliver would be a really nasty duo. But in this case, I have Milton Simmons going to the Cardinals earlier on, where they took Rondale Moore. But Tommy Tugai from Ohio State, Milton Simmons from Louisiana Tech. I think that nose tackle would help that defense out a lot. But unless they go D-tackle here. Next pick, Tylan Wallace, the Packers, man. I really do like this fit. This could be like an Amon-Ra St. Brown or a Dwayne Eskridge, smaller, dynamic playmaker type. But, man, Tylan Wallace's speed is insane. 5'11", he's a downfield burner. The only reason I decided not to put him in my last mock was he's a downfield threat, and they already have that at MVS. So I was thinking maybe they want a slot underneath option. I don't know if Wallace is quite that. I'm kind of looking for somebody to be that Alan Lazard role, even though I think Lazard is someone they should consider bringing back, and MVS should be somebody they move on from, but that's just my opinion. But I'd love to see Tylan Wallace in Green Bay. I think that'd be an awesome fit. Walker Little, then James Hudson, 2 tackles go back-to-back. It could become a position of need for the Bucs. You're just waiting on to see Donovan Smith. He just got that new contract, but does he play like he did at the end of last year? If so, cool. You might not need Hudson. Maybe he eventually becomes a guard. And then Walker Little, yeah, left tackle is going to be a spot of need, especially if it's not Lucas Niang, who has a huge frame and plenty of upside. But if Niang's not ready, they need somebody there. So I can't hate that either. Notable players left. Patrick Jones is definitely a good player. Peyton Turner starting to get second-round buzz. Eric Stokes and Javon Holland. These two do not survive round 2. These two are going in the first 2 rounds. They're both stud. Javon Holland, so many people have forgotten about him because he opted out. He was my safety one going into the year. Maurig has surpassed him, but Javon Holland's a first-round player in my eyes. But nonetheless, let me know what you thought of Todd McShay's mock draft. I'd love to know what picks you think he got right, what he got wrong, and also let me know what you think about my reaction to these picks. That's also part of the fun as well. If you enjoyed, please hit that like button. It would help me out a ton. If you're new to the channel, like football content, please consider subscribing. I hope you all enjoyed. Have a fantastic day. Until next time, my name's Tej, and I'm signing off.
I'm part of the last generation that remembers time of God.